Sakra is a film adapted from Jin Yong's or Louis Cha's masterpiece novel, Demi-Gods and Semi-Devils. The novel tells the story of three warriors with different fates, Qiao Feng, Duan Yu, and Shu Ju, who represent power, love, and enlightenment. Among them, Qiao Feng's story is the most tragic. A hero slandered, exiled, and trapped between two empires, Song and Khitan. And this is the core of the Sakra movie. The story is set during the glory days of the Song dynasty, specifically during the reign of the 7th emperor around the 1090s. At that time, the country was in a critical period. The Khitan of the Liao dynasty and the Xisha people repeatedly broke their treaty not to invade the Song border. Years of war between them left deep scars, and the Song dynasty was now squeezed from all sides by the great empires eager to overthrow it.
However, amidst the shadow of war and destruction, fate prepared a child who would change everything. In a small village near the border between the Song dynasty and the Khitan people from the north, this story begins. A humble couple found the baby boy on their doorstep. The couple were childless, and they considered the baby a gift from heaven. Lovingly, they took him in and named him Qiao Feng.
Years passed. Qiao Feng grew into a strong, healthy, and energetic child. He possessed an extraordinary amount of qi, the inner life energy within his body, a spiritual power that demonstrated great potential in the martial arts world. Seeing this, his adoptive parents took him to the Shaolin Temple, where he received guidance and training under the wise monk Master Shuangku. Under Shaolin's tutelage, Qiao Feng's abilities developed rapidly. His movements were swift, his strength strong, and his mind sharp. But more than that, his heart was filled with compassion. He used his martial arts skills to help the weak and defeat evil. His name began to gain notoriety in the Jianghu martial arts world. His fame even caught the attention of a major sect known as Gaibang, or the Beggar Sect, one of the most influential martial arts groups in the country. Their vice leader at the time, Ma Dayuan, was impressed by Qiao Feng's courage and sincerity. Without hesitation, he recruited the young man into Gaibang.
Several years passed. Qiao Feng was now widely known as the leader of the Beggar Sect, or Gaibang, a dashing, noble-hearted, and highly learned young warrior. One day, in a restaurant that had been quiet for a while, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. A group of monks arrived carrying a large basket covered in cloth, their movements suspicious. From his seat, Qiao Feng watched intently. With calm but dignified steps, he approached the leader of the group of monks, a red-robed monk from Tibet, known as Jiu Mozhi, the great monk of the Tubo kingdom.
In a respectful yet cold tone, Jiu Mozhi explained that the basket contained sacred offerings for a spirit purification ceremony at the Murong family tomb in Gusu. But through the gap in the cloth, Qiao Feng saw something that made his blood boil, a bound human hand. Inside the basket was a young man from Dali, none other than Duan Yu, the prince of Dali. Qiao Feng politely requested Duan Yu's release, but Jiu Mozhi refused. Tensions escalated. Jiu Mozhi's followers attacked in unison, but Qiao Feng remained calm. With a single stomp, his internal energy spread like a roaring dragon wave. Punch after punch came from all directions, but all were shattered by the power of his ultimate move, 18 dragon subduing palms. One by one, the monks fell, until only Jiu Mozhi remained. The Tibetan monk unleashed his Flame Sabre Technique, turning the surrounding air into a scorching wave of heat.
But beneath the defeat, Qiao Feng saw not an enemy, but a monk lost between enlightenment and ambition.
A moment later, the sound of horse gallops approached. 8 young warriors from Gaibang arrived and immediately paid their respects to Qiao Feng. The monk was stunned. Only now did he realize that the man he was facing was no ordinary man, but the leader of Gaibang, the largest and most respected mendicant sect in the entire Song dynasty. Duan Yu was rescued, while Jiu Mozhi left the scene with faltering steps.
Some time after the incident at the restaurant, Qiao Feng and 8 of his loyal followers, known as the 8 Great Disciples of Beggar Sect, set out for a forest on the outskirts of the capital. That day, members of the various branches of Beggar Sect had gathered for a grand sect meeting. However, this meeting was anything but ordinary. The atmosphere, usually filled with laughter and respect, had turned tense and cold. The elders of Beggar Sect appeared uneasy, and before them stood a young woman named Kang Min, the wife of Ma Dayuan, the vice chairman of Beggar Sect, who had recently been found mysteriously dead. Weeping and with a trembling voice, Kang Min alleged that Qiao Feng had murdered her husband. She claimed to have proof, a letter left by the late chairman Wang Jiangtong, written by someone called Elder Brother before his death.
The letter contained a profound secret. Qiao Feng was not a Song person. He was a descendant of the Khitan, a sworn enemy of the Song dynasty. These words silenced the entire audience. Some members reacted with anger and suspicion, while others stared at Qiao Feng in disbelief. Amidst the chaos, one of the elders, Elder Baishi Jing, stepped forward and read the letter aloud to everyone. He also confirmed that 30 years ago, at a place called Yanmen Pass, a mountain pass near the Great Wall, a great tragedy had occurred.
At that time, a Song army leader known as the Elder Brother accidentally killed a married couple suspected of being Khitan spies. They died tragically, leaving behind a baby boy. Now the baby is believed to be Qiao Feng. The story shook the entire Beggar Sect. No one knew whether the story was true or just slander, but the accusations had already been made, and the once solid trust was now beginning to crumble. In the tense atmosphere, Qiao Feng stood his ground. His eyes remained firm, though dimmed by inner burden. He made no attempt to defend himself with words against the accusations leveled against him. However, he remained firm in his conviction that he had never betrayed the Beggar Sect or the Song court, and that he was innocent of Ma Dayuan's death. However, the elders had been swayed by the slander. They unanimously voted to remove Qiao Feng from his position as the head of the Beggar Sect.
Even the 4 highest elders who had tried to defend him were threatened with punishment for defying the council's decision.
Seeing that the senior elders were about to be punished for defending him, Qiao Feng stepped forward. He snatched the law enforcement blade from one of the elders and inflicted 4 wounds on himself in lieu of the 4 elders' punishment. He handed over his inherited dog-beating staff to the elders. Qiao Feng declared that from now on, he was no longer the head of the Beggar Sect. However, he was determined to find the truth, to find out who had slandered him and the reason behind it all.
Meanwhile, on the hills, a man and his female attendants watched from a distance. He was Murong Fu, heir to the great Murong family of Gusu, who had long been determined to revive the glory of the Yan Kingdom, his ancestral homeland which had long since fallen. Watching the chaos engulfing Gaibang and the decline of Qiao Feng's reputation, Murong Fu smiled faintly. For him, every upheaval in the martial arts world was an opportunity to strengthen his influence. He then ordered one of his loyal followers, a girl named Zhu, to set off for the Shaolin Temple on a specific mission.
Meanwhile, Qiao Feng decided to return to the small village where his adoptive parents lived. But his hopes were dashed in an instant. All he found was a heartbreaking scene. Both of his adoptive parents had died horribly. 2 villagers who happened to be passing by immediately accused Qiao Feng of the murders. Qiao Feng immediately left, carrying his parents' bodies. He buried them under the tree where he had played as a child. Afterward, he decided to go to the Shaolin Temple to seek guidance from his teacher, Master Jianghu, the great monk who had guided him as a youth.
But fate played another cruel trick on him. Upon arriving at the temple, Qiao Feng discovered that his master had been mysteriously murdered. Unfortunately, a monk saw him and immediately shouted, accusing him of murder. Qiao Feng tried to leave the temple as quickly as possible. However, from the temple roof, he saw the suspicious monk who had shouted at him entering the Buddha statue room. Qiao Feng jumped and caught him. A group of Shaolin monks caught them both. To his surprise, the monk Qiao Feng had caught matched the face one of the newly arrived monks.
Before Qiao Feng could explain anything, the oldest monk, Xuannan, attacked him with the Shaolin Iron Palm Technique. This attack sent the captured monk flying, revealing his mask. It turned out that the monk was a disguised girl, infiltrating the temple to steal martial arts scriptures. The girl was Zhu, one of Murong Fu's loyal followers. Zhu was known as intelligent, agile, and skilled in the art of disguise. Her skills allowed her to perfectly imitate anyone's face.
But this time, bad luck struck her. While trying to escape, she was struck by a Shaolin Iron Palm Technique, which severely injured her and nearly killed her. Seeing Zhu's dying condition, Qiao Feng couldn't bear to let her die. Although she was from the enemy, his human instincts were far stronger than his hatred. He carried Zhu's frail body out of the temple and took her to an abandoned house at the foot of the mountain. There, Qiao Feng channeled his inner energy to help Zhu survive. While her wounds wouldn't heal instantly, Qiao Feng's strength was enough to keep her breathing.
Slowly, Zhu began to regain consciousness. Her first gaze fell on Qiao Feng, sitting cross-legged in the corner of the room, his body covered in wounds, but his face calm and gentle. Qiao Feng took Zhu to a renowned healer who was able to heal her wounds. Day by day, their steps moved side by side, and without realizing it, the seeds of love began to grow between two wounded souls. They often shared stories along the way, about their past, about loyalty, and about the Jianghu world, which is never fair to those with good hearts. Although never expressed directly, the two understood each other's feelings. In the silence of their journey, their bond grew stronger until their hearts were bound by fate.
After a long journey with Zhu, Qiao Feng arrived at Juxian Manor, a magnificent residence where the greatest figures of the martial arts world gathered. That day, a grand meeting was being held there. Warriors from various sects were gathered to discuss the fate of Qiao Feng, whom they considered the most dangerous traitor in the history of Beggar Sect and the Song dynasty. Amidst the tense atmosphere, a guard ran in with shocking news. The man they were planning to kill had arrived in person. A commotion erupted. Many were in disbelief, some were angry, and others were prepared for a bloody battle.
But Qiao Feng hadn't come looking for a fight. He simply wanted to take the injured Zhu to the renowned physician who resided there, Physician Su, the only one he believed could save her life. When the physician examined Zhu, he refused to treat her. His reason was simple but cruel. He considered Qiao Feng a traitor to the Song nation and refused to help anyone with him. Qiao Feng continued to plead calmly, but the physician remained unmoved. In desperation, Qiao Feng made a bold decision. He swore to risk his own life. If the physician would heal Zhu, he would sacrifice his own in return.
However, he insisted that before giving up his life, he would fight to the bitter end. Physician Shu finally agreed to the condition. To mark the beginning of the Duel of Honor, they held a ritual drinking of wine, an old Jianghu tradition that marks the farewell of friends who are about to fight to the death. The warriors present raised their cups, while Qiao Feng looked at each of them with sorrowful eyes, as if bidding farewell to the world he once protected.
平生没有几个和睦，这碗酒密谋谍报，命了，必须诸位屡次。
One of the warriors who wanted to offer a toast made a very demeaning remark. Qiao Feng immediately rebuked him. This rejection inflamed the atmosphere. In an instant, the banquet turned into a battlefield. Warriors from various sects simultaneously attacked Qiao Feng. The battle reached its climax when Physician Sui, who was supposed to be neutral, stabbed Qiao Feng in the back. The stab hit the vital key high point.
the center of the flow of internal energy. Qiao Feng's body weakened instantly, rendering him unable to withstand further attacks from Bai Shijing and the other warriors.
The internal wound was no ordinary one. He lost almost all his strength, bleeding profusely, and his breathing nearly stopped. Despite this, Qiao Feng still tried to protect Ju, who had fainted amidst the chaos. Just as his life was about to be lost, a mysterious masked figure suddenly appeared. With incredible speed, the person dragged Qiao Feng's body out of the battlefield. Just as Kong Men was about to finish Ju off, Physician Shu stopped him. He reminded him that he had promised to heal the woman Qiao Feng had brought, and that a true healer would never break a promise. Thus, for the time being, Ju's life was spared.
Elsewhere, far from the bloody battle at Juxian Manor, an ancient hall lay lit by candlelight in the darkness of night. Before the Murong family's ancestral altar, a young man knelt with his head bowed deeply. He was Murong Fu, heir to the great Murong family of Gusu. On the altar was the name of Murong Bo, his father, a great warrior who was said to have died long ago, but whose shadow still haunts the Jianghu world to this day.
Silently, Murong Fu prayed, his eyes sharp and filled with ambition. From this, a profound truth emerged. He was not merely a descendant of royalty, but a direct descendant of the Yan royal family that had fallen hundreds of years ago. He had only one goal: to revive the Yan kingdom and replace the current Song dynasty. For Murong Fu, Qiao Feng's presence was the greatest obstacle to realizing this ambition, as Qiao Feng was a figure respected throughout the martial arts world.
Meanwhile, in a remote valley at the foot of the mountains, the severely injured Qiao Feng slowly regained consciousness. A man in a black robe stood beside him, channeling a powerful flow of inner energy into Qiao Feng's body through his palms. When Qiao Feng opened his eyes, the man was gazing at him with a deep, meaningful gaze. There was something in that gaze, a mix of love, regret, and sadness that was hard to describe. Without answering who he was, the man simply sighed and said in a deep voice that he was disappointed to see a Khitan descendant risk his life for a Song woman.
Before Qiao Feng could ask further, the mysterious figure uttered a name that sent shivers down his spine: Xiao Yuan Shan. When Qiao Feng tried to stand up to chase after him and inquire about the truth, the mysterious man had disappeared, leaving Qiao Feng wounded, confused, and with an unsolved mystery. Meanwhile, Ju, who had been treated by Physician Shu at Juxian Manor, finally regained consciousness and recovered from his injuries. However, his anger and resentment toward the doctor were overwhelming. He couldn't forget the moment when the man stabbed Qiao Feng in the back, a heinous act that nearly killed his lover in front of so many people. Using his ingenuity and extraordinary disguising skills, Ju painted himself into the likeness of Physician Shu. He wore the same robes, spoke in a similar tone, and successfully deceived the doctor's disciples and subordinates. Everyone believed him to be their true master.
While acting in the medical house, Ju came face to face with the real Physician Shu. His anger and hatred exploded. A fight ensued, not out of personal revenge, but out of rage over the betrayal that had ruined Qiao Feng's life. In desperation and rage, Ju burned all of Physician Shu's medicines and medical equipment. The fire engulfed the building, engulfing the doctor in flames. News of the burning of Physician Shu's house quickly spread throughout Jianghu, reaching Murong Fu. The next day, Qiao Feng, having recovered from his wounds, arrived at the scene in search of Ju. Amidst the charred ruins, he found himself face to face with Murong Fu. Murong Fu looked at him with a knowing gaze. He knew Qiao Feng was in a fragile state, lost his position, slandered, and beset by numerous tragedies. Cunningly, Murong Fu attempted to exploit the situation. He offered cooperation, hoping Qiao Feng would join him in strengthening the Yan kingdom he hoped to revive. But Qiao Feng was not a man to be swayed. Despite having been banished by the Song dynasty and branded a traitor, he still refused to join Murong Fu. He knew his ambition would only bring suffering to countless people. This refusal offended Murong Fu. With a defiant tone, he tried to provoke Qiao Feng, accusing him of being ungrateful to his own people. He even lured Qiao Feng with the promise of reuniting him with Zhu. Qiao Feng glared at him. He knew that behind those sweet words, Murong Fu only wanted to use him for power. Although his heart yearned for Zhu, he chose to restrain himself. To him, loyalty and honor were far more valuable than being a tool for someone else's ambition. With firm steps, Qiao Feng left the scene. Behind him, Murong Fu stared coldly, realizing that Qiao Feng was no mere pawn he could control. And here, the seeds of enmity between the Khitan warriors and the heir of Yan began to grow. Two powerful forces that would one day face each other in a battle of fate and honor. Along the way, Qiao Feng encountered a group of Song dynasty soldiers dragging several prisoners. Initially, Qiao Feng had no intention of interfering, but as he approached, he was shocked to see the heartbreaking truth. The prisoners were Khitan, accused of being spies. Without mercy, the soldiers drew their swords and slaughtered the prisoners before his eyes. Their screams echoed in the air, and it was there that Qiao Feng realized the cruelty of a world ruled by hatred between nations. Fury welled up in his chest. He stepped forward, and in a matter of seconds, his ultimate move, 18 dragon-subduing palms, struck the Song soldiers, scattering them like dry leaves in a storm. Not a single one survived. Blood flowed on the ground, but this time, Qiao Feng had no regrets. He wasn't defending the Khitan, nor was he defending the Song. He simply couldn't stand to see humans killing each other in the name of pride and nation. Unbeknownst to him, all these events had been orchestrated from afar by Murong Fu, who wanted to instill hatred in Qiao Feng's heart to cause him to defect and turn against the Song dynasty. However, the plan failed. Instead, this incident opened Qiao Feng's eyes to the fact that good and evil are never determined by bloodline. A few days later, Qiao Feng walked along a rocky path flanked by cliff walls covered in ancient carvings. The place seemed to hold memories of the past, and there he saw the figure he missed most, Zhu, standing with a gentle, healthy face, smiling at him. A feeling of joy welled up in Qiao Feng's chest. After all the suffering and rejection he had endured, Zhu remained the only person who believed in him. In a world that viewed him as a traitor, she was the only one who saw him as a human being, not as a Song person, nor as a Khitan. From that moment on, Qiao Feng was no longer ashamed of his heritage. He embraced his Khitan heritage with his head held high. To him, in every nation, there are good and evil. What differentiates people is not race, but the heart. That night, at a quiet intersection, Bai Shi Jing was seen walking hurriedly. He entered a small sedan chair where a beautiful, cold-faced woman was waiting. Kang Min, the wife of the late Ma De-Yuan. Kang Min recounted the assassination they had planned on Ma De-Yuan, her own husband, to tarnish Qiao Feng's reputation. Bai Shi Jing,
who had long been known as one of the respected elders of the Beggar Sect, said that the order to kill Ma Daiwan came from someone he referred to as elder brother, namely Duan Zhengchun, a nobleman from Dali. According to Bai Shijing, Duan Zhengchun was also involved in the murder of a Khitan couple 30 years earlier, a couple strongly suspected to be Qiao Feng's biological parents. This news was the basis for the Beggar Sect elders' suspicions that Qiao Feng was of Khitan descent and not a true Song child. Unbeknownst to Bai Shijing, however, the woman sitting with him that night was not the real Kong Min. She was Ah Ju, disguised to investigate the truth of the slander against Qiao Feng. With cunning, Ah Zu managed to dig up all the secrets from Bai Shijing, including the name of Duan Zhengchun, who was rumored to be the perpetrator of the past murder. After Bai Shijing left, Ah Zu immediately went to Qiao Feng and told him the news. He explained that all the clues pointed to one person, Duan Zhengchun. Despite his doubts, Qiao Feng was determined to find the truth. For him, this was no longer about self-defense, but about finding out who had truly killed his parents and ruined his entire life. However, unbeknownst to them, this was all a cunning trap set up by the real Kong Min. He deliberately spread false rumors that Duan Zhengchun was the mastermind behind all the tragedies, with the aim of pitting two great figures of Jianghu, Qiao Feng and Duan Zhengchun, against each other. Kong Min's motives were not only revenge, but also heartache and personal humiliation. She, a woman who loved to flirt with many men, had once tried to seduce Qiao Feng, but the warrior ignored her advances. Her shame and anger turned into murderous hatred. In addition, Duan Zhengchun, her old lover, had also betrayed her, leaving scars that deepened her grudge against both men at once. And now, the seeds of hatred had become a fire, ready to burn everything. Ah Zu and Qiao Feng unknowingly stepped into Dali, towards Duan Zhengchun's residence, a place where love, revenge, and fate would meet in one great tragedy. On their way, Qiao Feng and Ah Zu saw a girl arguing with her mother because she had attempted to kill her father. The man approached Qiao Feng to express his gratitude. However, Qiao Feng's expression changed when he learned that the man's name was Duan Zhengchun, the man he had been searching for to avenge Ma Daiwan's death as directed by Bai Shijing. Duan Zhengchun was a prince of the Dali kingdom. He was there to retrieve his wife and child after they fled to Dali. Duan Zhengchun was known as a playboy who frequently had affairs with many women. After that, Duan Zhengchun used his deadly seduction technique to persuade his wife to return to Dali. However, his land crocodile technique was no longer effective. His wife, Qin Hong Mian, instead revealed a shocking fact. Her son, Ah Zi, actually had an older sister whom Duan Zhengchun had never known about. In the past, jealous of Duan Zhengchun's numerous concubines and mistresses, Qin Hong Mian decided to give her firstborn child, now known as Ah Ju, to another woman so that she wouldn't grow up in a family filled with lies and infidelity. Shortly afterward, Ah Zi suddenly attacked her father. The Dali kingdom was renowned for its extraordinary martial arts, particularly One Young Finger or Yi Yang Zhi, a deadly technique that projected internal energy through the fingers.
Duan Zhengshun used this technique to protect himself. However, to his surprise, Qin Hongmian actually protected Duan Zhengshun, even though she claimed to hate her husband. Zi was confused. Her mother hated her father, so why defend him? Behind the door, Ju had been eavesdropping on the entire conversation. When Zi's necklace was thrown towards her and she heard Qin Hongmian's explanation, Ju realized the truth. Duan Zhengshun and Qin Hongmian were her real parents.
As the two approached, Shu's face was filled with hope, longing, and hesitation. She wanted to tell him that she was their child, but her tongue was sealed. She simply returned Zi's necklace, her biological sister's, and left without a word, tears streaming down her face. That night, Shu accompanied Qiao Feng for a drink. Her heart was still filled with sadness. However, Qiao Feng, who had grown comfortable and fallen in love with her, made a promise. He would live peacefully with Shu in a quiet place, herding sheep for the rest of their lives.
Remember the young man Qiao Feng saved from the monks at the beginning of the story? His name was Duan Yu, and he turned out to be Duan Zhongchun's son. This wasn't surprising, considering Duan Zhongchun was very popular with women and had many children from various extramarital affairs. Before his battle with Duan Zhengchun, Qiao Feng went to the temple where Duan Yu, Duan Zhengchun's son, was residing. He told Duan Yu that he intended to avenge the death of Ma Da-yuan, the vice leader of the Beggar Sect, and also revealed the suspicion that Duan Zhengchun was the murderer of Qiao Feng's parents. Later, Qiao Feng, who had been invited to stop by Duan Zhongchun's residence, intended to meet him that night. However, Qiao Feng's real intention was to engage Duan Zhongchun in a fight. Of course, Duan Zhongchun didn't yet know Qiao Feng's true intentions. When Qiao Feng returned to Ju, he found Duan Zhengchun instead of his lover. Qiao Feng's emotions exploded. All the anger, hatred, and confusion he had been suppressing about his origins, Ma Da-yuan's death, and his parents' fate came out in one devastating attack. 18 dragon subduing poems. But to Qiao Feng's surprise, his attack hit its target, and there was no resistance. The figure before him slowly fell. Not Duan Zhengchun, but Ju disguised as the prince.
Ju did this to protect his biological father, whose identity he had just discovered, from the hands of Qiao Feng, the man he also loved deeply. He willingly sacrificed his own life. In his dying breath, Ju revealed that Duan Zhongchun was her father. Qiao Feng's heart was broken. The man he had intended to kill turned out to be the father of the woman he loved. And now Ju, the only light in his life, was gone.
There, Qin Hongmian and Duan Zhengshun arrived, weeping for the first daughter they had just found, only to lose forever. Even Zi, who had never known she had a sister, mourned the death of Ju, a sibling she had never even met. Furious, but not at Qiao Feng, Duan Zhengshun declared that he had never set foot in Yanmen Pass. He was also not the one who wrote the letter about Qiao Feng's origins. This statement shook Qiao Feng. If not Duan Zhengshun, then who was behind all this? Now it was revealed. Qiao Feng had been deceived all this time by Bai Shijing and Kang Min, who had deliberately misled him for personal revenge and hidden ambitions. With a broken heart and burning anger, Qiao Feng immediately rushed after Bai Shijing and Kang Min, the two people who had played with his life with vicious slander.
They deliberately misled him so that he would kill Duan Jingchun, even though the Dali prince was not involved in the Yanmen Pass tragedy 30 years ago. The next day, Qiao Feng arrived at Bai Shijing's residence. There, he was shocked to see Bai Shijing holding a dog-beating staff, his long-lost weapon. With a cold voice, Bai Shijing revealed the truth that all of this was the plan of Murong Fu of the Yen Kingdom. He wanted to pit the Song dynasty and the Dali Kingdom against each other. When both are mutually destroyed, the Yen Kingdom will rise and rule China.
Qiao Feng was furious. He had become a tool in a cruel political conspiracy, and as a result, Zu, the only person who truly loved him, had to die in vain. However, before Qiao Feng could act, Zi appeared from the shadows. He had heard the entire conversation between his father and Qiao Feng, and now came with one goal: to avenge the death of his older sibling, Zu. Seeing Kang Min, the arrogant woman who had once seduced Duan Jingchun and helped orchestrate the slander, Zi was filled with rage. With a swift movement, she sprinkled poison on Kang Min's face. The woman's skin immediately blistered and was severely disfigured. Even Bai Shijing, who had once been close to her, felt disgusted by Kang Min's now hideous face.
After receiving a powerful kick from Qiao Feng, Bai Shijing staggered. But before she could say anything, Murong Fu appeared with his elite troops. Initially, Bai Shijing cheered, thinking his master had come to rescue him. However, the reality was quite the opposite. Without warning, a hail of arrows rained down from all directions. In the midst of the battle, Zi emerged from the shadows and threw something to him, a Dali heirloom sword inherited from Duan Jingchun's family.
The sword wasn't just a weapon, it radiated an aura of ancient power that seemed to merge with Qiao Feng's spirit. With the sword in hand, his power exploded. He was now overpowered, tearing through the enemy ranks like a storm. Soon afterward, Murong Fu himself stepped onto the battlefield. A fierce battle ensued. Two martial geniuses from different backgrounds. Qiao Feng, the former head of the Beggar Sect, a Han hero who turned out to be of Khitan descent, versus Murong Fu, the heir to the Yan Kingdom, obsessed with reviving his ancestors' throne.
As he pursued Murong Fu further, Qiao Feng was stunned. Before his eyes, the corpses of the Beggar Sect elders, including his old friends, were hung from the trees. They had been brutally murdered. And only one man could have done this, Murong Fu. Qiao Feng's rage exploded. He immediately unleashed his legendary 18 dragons subduing palms, his signature move. But Murong Fu, with his cunning and family heritage, was able to anticipate and counter every attack. He even continued to batter Qiao Feng mentally with taunts.
Qiao Feng faltered. His body fell, his strength fading. But amidst his despair, a memory of the past flashed, the gentle voice of his Shaolin master, who had once said, "True strength comes not from revenge, but from an unwavering calm." In an instant, like a rekindled fire, Qiao Feng rose to his feet. His eyes were sharp, his breathing calm, his body filled with pure, unstoppable power. Without hesitation, he charged Murong Fu with full force, this time not as an assassin, but as a defender of righteousness.
After defeating Murong Fu, Qiao Feng departed with a broken heart. He had lost the only person who truly loved him, Zhu. However, he never forgot his promise to Zhu to take her out of the Song dynasty, even if only with her body. After burying Zhu, Qiao Feng abandoned all hopes that would never be realized. He no longer wanted to be involved in revenge, intrigue, or pointless battles. However, before he completely disappeared, he remembered another promise: to protect Azi, Zhu's younger sister. By his side, Azi followed. The two of them wandered northeast, toward the border region controlled by the Jurchen people. She knew that Qiao Feng's love belonged solely to his deceased brother and would never change to her.
This story, however, was not over. Murong Fu, lying unconscious after being defeated by Qiao Feng, was suddenly approached by someone who channeled his inner energy into his body. That person was Murong Bo, his own biological father. Murong Bo had long been declared dead 30 years ago. However, in reality, his death was merely a sham. He had lived in seclusion for 3 decades, watching from the shadows, hoping that his son, Murong Fu, would be able to revive the crumbling Yan kingdom. But now, seeing his son's failure, Murong Bo decided to take matters into his own hands.
Meanwhile, at Yanmen Pass, in the place where Qiao Feng's origins had long been a mystery, a mysterious man stood before a carved stone. He placed his hand on the scratches on the stone's surface, and memories of the past flowed. 30 years ago, it was here that a Khitan couple carrying a baby, Qiao Feng, were blocked by a group of black-masked assassins. In the fierce battle, the mother died. The father, a formidable warrior named Yao Yuan Shan, defeated his enemies but abandoned the baby there. And now an even more shocking truth was revealed. Xiao Yuanshan was the one who killed Qiao Feng's adoptive parents. He was also the mastermind behind the massacre of the Shaolin monks, including Qiao Feng's own master.
It all began with Murong Bo's machinations 30 years ago. To stir up chaos and weaken the Song dynasty, Murong Bo spread the slander that the Khitan couple, Xiao Yuanshan and his wife, were planning to steal secret Shaolin scriptures. He even convinced the Shaolin elders that they were Khitan spies. The result was a massacre at Yanmen Pass. Han warriors attacked Xiao Yuanshou while Murong Bo silently watched from behind the scenes. But Xiao Yuanshan survived. He witnessed his wife being murdered, his son being adopted by the Han family, and his reputation being ruined. From that day on, he disguised himself as a Shaolin monk, living quietly in the temple for 30 years, watching his son from afar, waiting for the right moment to exact revenge. Now, after 3 decades, Xiao Yuanshan has finally emerged from hiding. His grudge is not just against Murong Bo, but against the entire blind martial world, which kills without question, judges without evidence. And amidst this storm of revenge, Qiao Feng, who now knows his real name is Qiao Feng, must choose. Will he stand with his biological father in anger, or stop this endless cycle of violence? Sakra's story isn't over yet. There are still secrets, betrayals, and redemption waiting at the end of Qiao Feng's journey. The question is, will there be a sequel to Sakra? Even though Sakra was a box office hit, there has been no official announcement regarding a sequel. So let's wait patiently. Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on the bell
because the next story will take us deeper into the world of Jianghu, a world where honor and love are tested by fate.